So a very good morning once again to the students of class 9. Let's once again continue with the Merchant of Venice from where we had left off in our previous video tutorial. So please take out your textbooks and get ready for today's class. So students, today we'll be first finishing off with scene 1 of Act 2. We have only a little bit of that scene for us to discuss, and after that we will move on to Act 2, Scene 2. So on your screen you can see I have collected this particular photograph from the net. It is the scene where Lancelot, the servant of Shylock, who is kneeling before an old man, is in conversation with his father, old Gobbo. And the old man who is standing here, whom you can see standing here, is old Gobbo, Lancelot's father. So it is a very hilarious scene where father and son are in conversation, and Lancelot has plans to run away from Shylock's job. He works for Shylock, the Jew, but he does not like Shylock as his master, and he wants to leave the job and run away. And when he is thinking about running away, at that very moment, this old man, who happens to be Lancelot's own father, arrives and asks him about Shylock's address. And then Lancelot starts misbehaving, in a way you could say, with his father, and misguides him, because the old man is not able to see properly. He has kind of partial blindness, and so he doesn't even understand that he's talking to his son. So we'll come to this scene only after we finish with scene 1. So let's first finish with scene 1, and then we will come back to scene 2, or rather we will begin with Act 2, Scene 2. So I'm scrolling up now to that page which is still to be done by us. Please open your textbooks and get ready for the class. So Act 2, Scene 1, and this is the last page. The page number is 47, which is right now on your screen, and we shall see what conversation continues between the suitor and Portia. And Morocco here continues to say, "And so may I, blind fortune leading me, miss that which one unworthier may attain, and die with grieving." So the Prince of Morocco, he is commenting that sometimes even the strongest is defeated by the weakest, and it all depends on luck. And luck is depicted as blind fortune. Many of you have, I'm sure, seen the portrayal of Lady Luck or Fortune. She is depicted as a goddess with eyes blindfolded, and she has the wheel of fortune near her, and she keeps on turning the wheel of fortune for each one of us, and that is why she is being referred to as blind fortune. She is actually blindfolded, or a piece of cloth is tied around her eyes so that she cannot see. So this is what Prince of Morocco is trying to say here, that goddess fortune could sometimes favor someone who is not really worthy of it, and so also I could be losing my chances by choosing the wrong casket. Portia says, "You must take your chance and either not attempt to choose at all, or swear before you choose. If you choose wrong, never to speak to lady afterward in way of marriage. Therefore be advised." So Portia says that you have to choose. Since you have come here, you cannot simply marry me just like that. You have to go through this lottery of the 3 caskets, and you have to choose the right casket, the one which contains my portrait inside. And for that, first you have to take an oath that you will not disclose anything about what you find inside the casket in the event if you choose wrong, and will never approach another lady ever in your life with the intention to marrying her. That means you will not be allowed to propose to any girl hereafter if you fail in this lottery of caskets. So you have two choices right now: either to participate in this lottery and see if you can win my hand in marriage and marry me, or else decide not to choose at all, and in that case you can go back and marry someone else. But if you choose, if you participate in this casket lottery of caskets, and if you choose the wrong box or the wrong casket, then you will not speak to any lady in terms of marriage with the intention to marry her. So be advised. I am giving you this advice beforehand so that later on you should not complain. So this is Portia, and then Morocco replies, "Nor will not come bring me unto my chance." Of course, double negative for emphasis. I will never ask anyone else to marry me. I am advised by you, I am warned by you, so yes, I am going to follow it. I am not going to ask any other lady to marry me if I fail in this lottery of caskets. Now please take me to the place where I should make my choice. Portia says, "First forward to the temple, after dinner your hazard shall be made." So first you must come with me to the temple. Temple here refers to place of worship. That means before God you have to swear an oath. So first come with me to the temple where you have to swear an oath with this regard that you will not disclose anything to anyone if you fail, and you will not propose marriage to any other lady in your life. So come with me to the temple first. You have to take that oath first. And after dinner, and after that we shall have dinner, and once our dinner gets over, after that you may participate in this lottery of caskets. You may take your chances. Morocco says, "Good fortune then. Well then, let good fortune be on my side. Let good luck be on my side." Temple here is explained, the private chapel where oath is to be taken. The word temple is used as it is more likely to be understood by Morocco and perhaps more agreeable to him. So Morocco is not a Christian. He is from Africa, and he is probably more comfortable with the term temple. That's the reason why Portia refers to the chapel as the temple. So place of worship, whether you call it the church or the temple or the mosque, it is ultimately, or the Gurdwara, it is ultimately a place of worship, and we worship God in many different ways with many different faiths. So that is what Portia implies. So anyway, Morocco wishes himself good luck, and then he says, "To make me blessed or cursed among men." So it is all left to good fortune. Lady luck or fortune, it is left to her. She can either make me the most blessed or the happiest man on earth if I choose correctly, or she could possibly make me the most cursed man among all other men in this world. So it all depends on fortune, one thing or the other. I could be successful, I could prove to be a failure. So saying this, there is this sound of cornets, and all of them leave the scene. So with this, Act 2 Scene 1 comes to an end. Now we start with Act 2 Scene 2. On your screen, page 48. I hope you are following from the textbook. Let us read the introduction of this scene from your textbook as given. This scene is divided into 3 sections, which means there are 3 separate things happening in this scene. Though it is a single scene, there are 3 separate events or incidents taking place or happenings taking place in this scene. And as I told you in the beginning of this video, the scene begins with Lancelot, who is a servant of Shylock. We are introduced to the character of Lancelot in this scene for the first time, and he is thinking about whether or not he should leave the job of Shylock because he does not like Shylock as his master. So the first section is dominated by the antics of Launcelot Gobbo. His full name is Launcelot Gobbo, and he is the son of Old Gobbo. Remember these two names, Launcelot or Launcelot Gobbo, and his father's name is Old Gobbo. So Launcelot Gobbo, Shylock's servant. In the beginning, he is found debating with his conscience. He is debating with himself. His conscience or his inner voice is telling him not to leave the job, not to run away, but he is desperate to run away. He has this temptation working in his mind, and he feels that the devil is actually tempting him, that he should go away and that he should not continue to work for Shylock. So his conscience and he, these two are debating whether he should leave Shylock's household and take up service with Bassanio. He has heard that Bassanio, Antonio's friend Bassanio, is a very generous master. All his servants are treated very well by Bassanio. He gives them new clothes every now and then, and he pays them handsomely, and he gives them good food and drinks. So Launcelot also wants to become Bassanio's servant. Ultimately, he decides to leave the Jew's service, the Jew meaning Shylock, exhibiting his racial prejudice and his false expectations of Bassanio's wealth. So, he has some false expectations with regard to Bassanio's wealth. What he does not realize is that Bassanio does not earn. His wealth is all borrowed from Antonio most of the time. He is not really someone whom one should consider wealthy. He simply flaunts, or he simply wastes the money that he borrows from his rich friend Antonio. So he teases his poor father, taking advantage of his blindness, and urges him to plead to Bassanio to employ him. So that is the scene which I showed you in the beginning, where he is kneeling before his father, and he is actually trying to tease the old man, because the old man is not able to recognize him, because the old man does not see properly with his eyes, and he is coming to the town of Venice after a long time. He lives in the village, and he has not met his son for a long time, so he has no idea how Launcelot has grown and how Launcelot has changed. He wants to go to Shylock's house. He has a basket with him in which he has brought some gift for Shylock. We shall see what gift he has brought, and he asks Launcelot the direction to Shylock's house, and Launcelot purposely teases him and misguides him, gives him such direction which is difficult to follow. In the second section of this scene, Launcelot meets Bassanio and enters his service. So that is the second part of the scene. In the third section, Gratiano requests Bassanio to let him accompany him to Belmont. So that is the third part of the scene. So now let us see, let's begin. Scene 2, Venice, a street, enter Launcelot. Launcelot speaks. This is Launcelot's soliloquy. What do you call it? You call it a soliloquy. How do you spell it? Soliloquy. Please write down this spelling, Soliloquy. Just write this term down next to this speech of Launcelot in your textbooks. Soliloquy means where a character in a play is alone and is speaking to himself. He is alone on the stage. There are no other characters present on the stage, and he is speaking out aloud. Whatever is going on in his mind, he speaks it out aloud, and only the audience or the viewers are able to see him and hear him. There is no one else present on the stage. So this long soliloquy of Lancelot is full of nonsense. So let us try to understand. Certainly my conscience shall, or rather will, serve me to run from this Jew my master. Certainly I am very sure that my conscience, my inner voice, is going to support me if I run away from this master, the Jewish master, Shylock. The fiend is at mine elbow. The devil, fiend means devil. Now, devil is the one who is always around us and who always tries to tempt us with many temptations of life, which if we fall for, then we commit some sin or the other. So, we should never fall for temptations, because these temptations are actually put before us by the devil. And if we fall for them, then we become sinners. And when we become sinners, our souls after we die can be taken away by the devil to hell. So we should avoid temptation, and we should always focus towards righteousness, or what is right, what is good, what is proper. So that is what Lancelot is referring to. He is saying that the fiend is near my elbow. That means just next to me. The devil is standing next to me and tempting me, telling me, run Lancelot, run. And my conscience, I'm sure, is going to support me if I decide to run. He thinks that way. So the devil is tempting me, saying to me, Gobbo, Lancelot Gobbo, good Lancelot, or good Gobbo, or good Lancelot Gobbo, use your legs. See how funny this man is. Lancelot is known for his peculiar and funny comments and remarks and activities in this play. He speaks an infinite deal of nonsense, and that induces humor, and the audience roars in laughter. So he is not even able to decide what the devil is calling him by, what kind of name the devil is calling him by, whether the devil is calling him by the name Lancelot, or Lancelot Gobbo, or good Lancelot Gobbo. So he is repeating so many different varieties of expressions for his name. So the devil is telling me, use your legs, take the start, run away. Start using your legs. Start moving, make the movement, run away. My conscience says, no, take heed, honest Lancelot, take heed, honest Gobbo, or as aforesaid, or as I have said before, honest Lancelot Gobbo, do not run. Scorn running with thy heels. My conscience is telling me, honest Lancelot, honest Gobbo, honest Lancelot Gobbo, don't run, don't use your legs, stay where you are, don't use your heels, do not go away. So, my conscience is telling me not to run away. The devil standing next to me is telling me to run away. Now what should I do? Well, the most courageous fiend bids me pack. Vaya, says the fiend. Well, the most courageous devil is telling me, asking me, bidding me, pack. Pack means what? Pack up and leave. Just take your things, take your belongings and get going. Vaya. Vaya. Literally the road. Here it means go. Just be gone. Get going, says the devil. Away, says the fiend. For the heavens, rouse up a brave mind, says the fiend, and run. For heaven's sake, gather courage, gather the determination in your mind, and run. Don't stay here. Get going, says the devil to me. Well, my conscience hanging about the neck of my heart. Now here he makes use of a wrong expression. My conscience, which is hanging about the neck of my heart. Here the meaning is explained, clinging to my heart like a wife with her arms around the neck. So just as a darling wife clings with her arms around the neck of her husband. In the same manner, my conscience is hanging about my heart, about the neck of my heart, and is telling me, my honest friend Launcelot. My conscience is telling me very wisely that my honest friend Launcelot, being an honest man's son, since you are the son of an honest man, well, since you are the son of an honest man, or rather an honest woman's son, or rather, Launcelot changes his statement because he is not ready to believe that his father was an honest man. He believes that his mother is an honest woman. So he changes the statement and he says that my conscience is telling me, since you are the son of an honest woman. Well, my conscience says, Launcelot, budge not. Launcelot, that is what my conscience tells me. Don't move. Budge means to move. Don't make any movement. Just stay here where you are. Continue to work here under Shylock. Don't move. Budge, says the fiend. But the devil says, move. Budge not, says my conscience. Don't move. My conscience tells me, don't move. Conscience, say I, you counsel well. So I tell my conscience, conscience, you are giving me good advice. Counsel means advice. You are advising well enough. And then to the devil I say, fiend, say I, you counsel well. Even you are giving me good advice. So Launcelot says that he tells his conscience that his conscience is giving him good advice. Then he tells the devil that even the devil is giving him good advice. To be ruled by my conscience, I should stay with the Jew, my master, who, God bless the mark, is a kind of devil. But then, dear conscience, if I listen to your words and don't move at all, then I will have to continue to work for Shylock, my master, who, God bless the mark, is an expression which means, if I may say so, who is no better than the devil. Who is no better than a devil. So if I listen to the voice of my conscience, then I continue to work for Shylock, and Shylock is no better than the devil. And we move on to the next page, page 49. To run away from the Jew, I should be ruled by the fiend. And if I run away from Shylock, my master, then it means that I will be ruled by the devil. So one way or the other, I am with the devil. If I listen to my conscience and continue to be with Shylock, then I am with the devil, because Shylock is no better than a devil. And if I listen to the devil's advice and if I run away, then I am being ruled by the devil and not by my conscience. So still I am with the devil. Who, saving your reverence, is the devil himself. With all due respect, Launcelot seems to apologize to the audience for using the name of the devil. He is apologizing to the audience because this is his soliloquy. So he says, certainly the Jew is the very devil incarnation. I am certain about it that the Jew, that is Shylock, is the very devil himself. He is an incarnation of the devil. Incarnation means devil born in real life. So he is the devil incarnate. And in my conscience is but a kind of hard conscience. To offer to counsel me to stay with the Jew, well, my conscience, I should say, is a very hard conscience. Shylock is nothing but the devil, and my conscience is asking me to stay with him. That's a very hard piece of advice for me to follow. Very difficult as an advice to be followed by me, because in listening to the voice of my conscience, I'll have to continue to live with the devil. The fiend gives the more friendly counsel. But if I consider the advice of the devil, the actual or the real devil, the fiend. He seems to be giving me a better advice. In what sense? At least I don't have to be constantly with the devil if I listen to the advice of the devil. I will run, fiend. My heels are at your commandment. I will run. My legs are ready to follow your orders. So I will follow your orders. I will run, says Lancelot. At that very moment, when Lancelot is talking to himself, who enters the scene? As I already told you, it's old Gobbo, Lancelot's blind father. He is 90% blind, you might say. He can just faintly see shapes of people in front of him, but he cannot make out their faces. And in those days, eyeglasses or specs were not invented. Plus, a man living in a village could not even afford, even if it was invented. So, old Gobbo has probably developed cataract, and so he is not able to see Lancelot clearly. He thinks he is just a man in a street of Venice, a stranger, and so he decides to request him to tell him the direction of Shylock's house. Old Gobbo with a basket. Now you saw in the beginning of this video I showed the picture I had taken from the net. It is a picture of the enactment of this particular scene. So old Gobbo was carrying a basket. So old Gobbo with a basket. Gobbo says to Lancelot, Master, young man, you, I pray you, which is the way to Master Jews? Young man, if you are one of the masters, could you please tell me, masters in the sense, the ones who keep servants, the ones who are elite class gentlemen. So if you are one of those people, could you please give me the direction to the house of the Master Jew, meaning Shylock. Lancelot speaks aside. What is this aside? Aside and soliloquy are almost same. Only difference is that in an aside, there could be other characters present on the stage, but whatever is being spoken by this particular person in an aside is meant only for the audience, and it has to be believed that the other characters who are present on the stage are not able to hear the words of the speaker. So he speaks aside. It is meant for the audience. Old Gobbo is not able to hear him, but the audience is able to hear him. What does he say? Oh heavens, this is my true begotten father. Now see the fun. True begotten father is a joke because it is the father who begets the son. Who comes first, father or son? When you have a father, then you have a son. You cannot have a son getting for himself a father. That's not possible. So when Lancelot speaks this way, the audience, you can imagine the Shakespearean audience roars in laughter. This is my true begotten father, who being more than sand blind, he is more than half blind. Sand blind means half blind. High gravel blind, so more than half blind. That means sand. The next stage is gravel, then pebble, then stone, then rock, then boulder. So you go up according to the size. So that is how he tries to explain that he is more than sand blind. He is actually gravel blind, though there is no such term as gravel blind. But sand blind is something referring to semi-blind. So he is more than sand blind, high gravel blind, knows me not. I will try confusions with him. Now this man, he is not able to see me and therefore he is not able to recognize me. I am his son, but I will try to create some confusions for him. Gobbo says, Master, young gentleman, I pray you, which is the way to Master Jews? So once again he repeats his question. Could you please tell me the direction to the house of Jewish Master Shylock? Lancelot says, turn up on your right hand at the next turning, but at the next turning of all, on your left. Marry, at the very next turning, turn of no hand, but turn down indirectly to the Jew's house. Does not make any sense. He confuses old Gobbo. When you come to the next turning, turn right. And when you reach the next turning, turn left. And when you reach the next turning, don't turn at all, but turn indirectly and finally reach Shylock's house. Can anyone follow such direction? Is it possible? He purposely creates this confusion for his father, and the audience, the spectators, the viewers inside the Globe theatres who are watching the dramatic performance of the scene are roaring in laughter to hear the words of Launcelot. Gobbo says, "By God, Sauntes, 'twill be a hard way to hit. In the name of the saints of God," Sauntes are saints. "In the name of the saints of God," that is just an exclamation of surprise. He says, it will be a difficult direction to follow. Can you tell me whether one Launcelot that dwell with him or no? Can you just tell me one more thing, sir? That there was this man called Launcelot, someone called Launcelot, who used to live with Shylock. Does he still live with him or not? Can you just tell me whether Launcelot still continues to be at Shylock's place and continues to serve Shylock as a servant? He used to be his servant. Whether he is still there or not, can you please tell me? Now, Venice in those days was a small, comparatively smaller place than what it is now. Now it's a flourishing, very big port city or a harbor. In those days it was a port city, but number of people, the population was less, and so people knew people, and that's why old Gobbo is asking Launcelot if he knows anything about Launcelot still working for Shylock or not. So with that, we come to the end of this page, that is page 49. So we have done up to Gobbo's speech, line number 40, 46, 47, 48, 49. So you can please mark up to line 49, end of page 49. Line 49, end of page 49. Act 2, Scene 2. We have started with Act 2, Scene 2. And this is once again on your screen the scene where Launcelot and his father are in conversation with each other.